Yeah, this is a thing that Lucian and I already know we fundamentally disagree about going to this episode, and I don't fully know what your thinking is yet, so we're going to get into it.
I don't know either. It's in me.
Oh, cool. We're going to pull it out.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Open Hardware Manufacturing Podcast, the podcast about making open source hardware. My name is Stephen Haas.
And I'm Lucian Chapart.
And today we're talking about writing documentation, taking pictures for documentation, the great Greek tragedy that is trying to write docs that you uniquely are good at writing, but also are kind of the worst at writing.
Because you need them probably the least.
Yeah, you need them the least, which means you're the worst judge of if they're good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's fraught, but there's ways around it. So we get into how do you still write them even though there's this whole problem, what software is good for doing it, how aggressively pictures should be part of things, how people don't usually like writing docs. I love it. I love writing docs.
I think it's really satisfying.
It is. It's chill.
Docs you didn't plan to write can be frustrating.
Yeah, when they're emergency docs are never fun.
No.
But trying to get around that fact and, still being able to put forth some good stuff, how little text you should actually write, and how it really should be photo-based, and how you go about tuning it, and how all this ties in with videos too, and what's the balance of all that? How's that going to fit in with your product?
I thought this was an interesting episode, and I'm excited to get into it, so let's do it.
Let's do it. So in general, writing documentation is inherently a Greek tragedy because you are simultaneously the absolute best person on the planet and the absolute worst person on the planet to write your docs. You know the most about what you're writing about. You're trying to encode information that is maybe exclusively in your brain and not anywhere else. But you are also the most blind to what someone may not know about it because you're so steeped in it and you will make assumptions about what people already know.
Yeah, and it's from that perspective, it's really hard to understand what a newcomer's perspective would look like.
Yeah, you are so bad inherently at being like, well, yeah, of course you just have to. Of course you can't flash firmware to it unless it's in DFU mode. What is DFU?
Yeah, what's firmware?
What's flashing mean?
Yeah.
you already a ton of assumptions in that sentence. But you know how to do all that stuff, but you may not know what to write. So it's this horrendously ironic and tragic situation where you can try, but you will get it pretty wrong. Kind of always the first pass, to the point where it's like something will be pointed out to you and it's borderline embarrassing that you're like, duh, of course they don't. Of course I should have. I can't believe I just assumed. That happens so often.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sad, but there's ways around it because you are really the only person that can write them. So it still has to be you. That's not changeable, but you can still get feedback to make that happen.
Yeah. And like what I said earlier, if you can put yourself in the shoes of some beginner approaching your docs, that change of perspective can really help you and catch what someone might have been confused about the first time around.
Exactly. You can do that pretty well. You can be like, okay, I'm just going to try and pretend that I don't know what this is. And I think that works to a degree. And it's definitely a muscle you can flex and get better at putting yourself in beginner's mind. But in general, do the best you can when you write your docs, then have a beginner try it and have them rip it apart, fix the issues, and then repeat.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it because there will always be things you miss. I'm sure there's a couple sleeper things in our docs, even now that have been tuned over years, that throw people off. And they're like, well, they never really said explicitly what that is. But I am blind to that because it's just so encoded in how I think. Having customers are great beginners. Now, don't use them as the guinea pig. You should have someone try doing it without. I think we had, did you early on go through OpenPMP docs and stuff in assembly docs?
And this is before I had touched OpenPMP to make a Lumen board in production. I ran through OpenPMP docs for, I think, the BYOP kit documentation we were getting ready to release.
Yep. And we really should do this at some point, but we have a friend, Sam, who is completely non-technical.
He's a nurse.
He does not have a lot of technical background. And we really want to have him come in and he's the ultimate test. If he gets going on this thing and has a good time with it, it's okay, our docs are excellent. You don't need any prior experience. You can just dive into it.
Right. And towards that, it's the audience is key. Like, who are you writing these docs for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you writing machine usage docs for Nurse Sam? Are you writing docs for someone who's built a Voron before and they're making an adjacent machine? Like,
that's a good point. And like, you may not want to write it for Nurse Sam because you can make a couple assumptions about some people that are putting this thing together. Like, you can assume they probably know what a resistor is.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's say we make that assumption. Everyone knows what a resistor is. You probably should if you're using the pick and place machine, but probably. And that means, let's just say, for example, there's a situation I can think of where you don't, but let's just say for an example, you don't know what a resistor is. Is it important in the docs to describe a resistor? Like, no. Like, it's not necessarily important to like describe Ohm's law in the doc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're gone too far.
You've gone too far. Like, it may not be necessary. You have to figure out what your scope is of it. So having beginner's mind stuff do that is really good. And you always can have customers give you feedback, making sure that there's a form at the end of the docs, a community place where they can give you feedback about what is misleading or difficult or could be better about the documentation is a great way to get that feedback too. And there will be. You're not going to get it right. As every time you're like, yes, the docs are done. No, it's not.
Yeah, the docs being done is an inside joke here. It's never done.
It's just not.
No real such thing.
No, it's just not. There's always going to be something else that we're like, wow, yeah, that's a really good point. We can probably make it a lot clearer.
And like, the tighter you can integrate feedback with like iteration, the better. Like, the quicker you can take feedback and the sooner you can hear it, the more closed loop it'll be and the better quality your docs will be.
Yes.
Like, we have a couple of different places the community can talk to us almost in real time and be like, hey, I'm stuck here. And be like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Push.
And it also can be even more aggressively useful when you're literally watching someone do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had the privilege of watching someone follow our docs for assembly on a live stream. And it was fascinating. It was so, like, as they were going through, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, I can totally see, like, maybe things that people will get hung up on, but then figure out themselves and never think to mention, we can still catch that we wouldn't be able to if they were writing their own report. Like, that's huge. Like, catching those things where they actually seeing where they get hung up is really big. So if you have that opportunity to watch someone go through that process, when I first started at Farm Labs, I had beginner's mind and they had me test the UI of the yet unreleased Form 3 because they were trying to see, was it a good UX? Was it intuitive how to use it? Because I had beginner's mind and they took advantage of new employees to use for that kind of thing. So that's good. Having a live stream of watching someone go through it or have it be in the same room is like, that's the best.
It was kind of sad to watch it in a way because like people don't read the docs.
Yes. Yes. And we talk about this a little later of like, text is your enemy.
Yeah.
Text truly is your enemy. But it's seeing a lot of that made us learn that kind of thing. It can be really hard to watch people do it. Like, just because all the information's there doesn't mean you did your job, which is a really difficult thing to kind of process about it. But before we get into actually making them, there's a couple little nuggets about docs themselves that's good to address before we actually get into how do we make them. There's a lot of, in terms of like actually how to share your docs with the world, we use MK Docs, which is a open source web tool for taking Markdown, which is like human readable files. Like, it's almost like just writing text.
It's kind of like HTML. It's even a lot more simple than that. It's like you can define if you want something to be a header 1 through 4. You can define if it's a bullet point list or a numerical list or like a call out. It never gets much more fancy than that.
Yeah. It's not code. It's like syntax that you can process into things. It's great. Like Markdown is a really nice little tool for encoding information that can be rendered beautifully in different ways. So MK Docs just takes your Markdown, turns into a website. And there are so many tools that help facilitate getting this out onto the internet. So like GitHub Pages, it's trivially easy to set up a repo with MK Docs, and GitHub Pages is like whenever you push to Git on GitHub, it will take whatever you pushed and it will actually host the website for you for free. And we did this for years for our docs where we would just like make a change in Git. We'd push it up and suddenly it has now rebuilt and redeployed to the whole internet, and it's all for free, and GitHub manages all of it.
Yeah, it's magical to see it work.
Yeah. It's great. Like, you literally just type git push origin main, and like 5 minutes later, it's on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And like hell too, we even have people who are not familiar with GitHub in the command line using the desktop app contributing to docs here at Opula.
Mm-hmm.
It's really low barrier to entry.
Yes. Yeah. It being able to write Markdown is pretty straightforward, and it doesn't, the whole aspect of like dealing with like writing JavaScript and HTML and CSS and like dealing with web stuff is fully abstracted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember we had Bryce write a whole bunch of docs.
Yeah. And I just said, Bryce, look at this one for reference. And he was writing Markdown instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. He was one of our techs, and he went, and you just kind of see how it's written, and like you would go through and write whole pages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. It's a pretty low barrier to entry. It's easy to deploy. We recently switched to a different host, not GitHub, because our docs page is tremendous now. It's a huge size. Load times were long. So we just hosted on a different place, which is pretty easy to upgrade to for faster load times and stuff. But MKDocs is a really nice tool. There's other things like this. There's Hugo, there's Jekyll, there's a bunch of things, but MKDocs is suited towards documentation, and I think it's really well done for that.
And it's open source, which is great.
Yep.
And an important thing to mention as well here is if you need printout instructions, they also have plugins for MKDocs that can generate PDF.
No way.
Yeah. There's conversions for that.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was like an MKDocs thing.
I mean, make sure of it, but MKDocs to PDF.
That's cool. Yeah, because sometimes we get requests for like a PDF version of docs and like, or an offline version. And we can be like, oh, just download the repository and host it locally. But some people don't want to do that. That's too much work to just like read the instructions.
Yeah, this is a MKDocs Exporter is a plugin for MKDocs that allows you to export to PDF. And there's a whole bunch of others.
Nice.
We haven't used them much here, but it's just a powerful thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. We have some plugins, like we use the material for MKDocs. It's SquidFunk is the GitHub user. It uses the Google material, like the style guide for making things look really nice. We also have some other ones for like cool plugins for like how to like visualize certain things for like a debugging placement errors.
Mm-hmm.
We have this cool grid of photos that links to different pages, and we use a plugin for that. And I think it's pretty rare we've run into a thing that it can't do what we want it to do pretty easily. And I think it also lets you splice in HTML here and there where you need to, if you need to do something wacky. It even supports mermaid diagrams, so you can have like graphs of logic and like flow charts encoded in Markdown. It's very cool. Like there is not much we want for in that.
There's some clunk about it I could have a mini rant on, but it's never anything that's showstopper.
What kind of clunk do you?
It'd be like if you click on the top header of a section, if you want that to be a page, if you click Lumen PMP, it'll take you to like the first subsection when maybe you want it to not take you to the first article, but instead you want to take it to like a table of content.
Sure. Yeah. And you have to like make a page to be like an intro page,
right? If
you want that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. That would be nice to have it go to something like that.
It's definitely a thing where like the behavior of the site is site wide. Like,
yeah, that's true.
There's no like per page plugin that I've seen.
Yeah,
it's open source. You could probably make it do whatever you want if you're so stubborn.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. We have run into very few of those things. It's been a great tool, and like I see no reason that we'd want to switch. We actually used to use Hugo for our docs.
Yeah,
and it was frustrating. It had like weird requirements for things, and MKDocs just has so much more support, and it's really good. But I'm sure Hugo would work fine. We used that for a while, and it was okay.
We also were trying to do something ambitious with Hugo at the time as well.
That's true. Yeah. I'm probably conflating those two things, which we'll talk about later. And then there's Dazuki.
Yeah, and that's like on the tool or project scale, that's just buy the tool, don't think about it. Or this is not a Dazuki ad, but I've used it before and I was happy enough with it. If you've ever seen the iFixit assembly instructions online, that's powered by Dazuki.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of 3D printer sites, I think including like Prusa Docs, will use it as well.
Yes. And
from like the composer view, you're able to like create a step, add an image, create like the right side, like add up to 3 or 4 steps about the photo, and you can add different colored annotations, and you click next step when you're ready to go make the next step, and you can have it render for tablets at an assembly bench. You can have it render for a workstation. You can have it render for print. It's just a quick solve to docs on demand.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like pretty expensive licensed software.
I don't recall the pricing, but
it's not free.
Yeah. It's like $10 to $100 per user per month. And then I don't know.
Oh, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
And there's, in the similar vein, there's stuff like Tulip, and that's more like internal work instructions, like on the factory line. But there are tools around here like this. Oh, that's how you know I go to their website and I have to submit my information to find out how much it costs.
Oh, that's changed. It used to not be like that.
Yeah, so it's money, but again, tool or project.
Yeah.
If you want to spend the money on this thing, like I can see why Prusa would want to do this at their scale. There are many layers of different combinations of things that they want to be able to manage it well. I totally understand them wanting to do something like that.
Yeah, I believe that you can even, this must have been Suzuki where it's, you can even enable a comment page on the article.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Prusa has those on their docs.
And that's a great way to get real-time feedback. You can see this comment about something being wrong and you can address it and delete the comment, move on.
Yep. And the other way to do this is instead of having like these nicely like codified, not hard-coded like images, the absolute goat for docs is Max Tool Preview.
Yeah.
If you open an image in preview, like just double click on a freaking JPEG on your Mac and then you hit the little annotate thing, you can move mountains. You can preview alone is enough to do any kind of annotation, any kind of visual crime need be, to like mask out text and write different text, or like do like just bad Photoshop stuff.
Yeah, or like your toolkit bag label shown in a photo has the wrong quantities on it, so you want it to look right. Yeah, just preview. Just
use preview. Put a little instead of 3, it's a 4, but you try and color match the background so you kind of can't tell at first glance that it's the wrong number. And like preview is the goat. It is such a good tool. And then I'll use GIMP or Photoshop to like clean up images a little more aggressively, but preview's fine.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Yeah, it's so good.
If you need a red arrow, they put a red arrow down pretty quick.
There is like a red arrow tool. Yes.
Did you know you could double click the arrow and type text that trails the end of it?
Get out of here. Are you serious?
No, dead serious. Yeah, you can double click the arrow and text will be at the end of it.
At the end of it, not inside of it.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm such a clown. I've been like dragging text around with the butt of the arrow.
You are a clown.
I'm a clown. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
MS Paint would be a little clunky. Find your Windows or Linux equivalent here. But we love our preview here.
Yeah. on Linux, I just use GIMP. I don't know what I'd use on Windows.
Yeah, that would be annoying because I don't have a good arrow tool in GIMP. Like adding vector callouts, I don't.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, I will literally open something in preview, add the arrow, and then save it and then open it in GIMP with the arrow, because the arrow tool is it is literally easier to add it in preview than it is and save it and export and everything than it is to just do it in GIMP.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just being a clown. Maybe there's something I could add to GIMP to do it, but it's so easy in preview.
I'd love someone to school us on that but I think GIMP, but preview has been rad.
Yeah. The thing that is annoying about this is that once you save it with preview, you've baked it that way. So sometimes what I'll do is if I am saving an annotated version of a picture, I will also save the original in the repo. And then that way, if I'm like, well, this annotation's bad, I just delete the annotated version and I right next to it in the repo, I have the original, and I can then save a new annotated one if I need to change the annotation. And that's a little curse because I'm saving 2 copies of it that's in the repo. But if you can have a huge Git repository, and then you can have your image go to DigitalOcean or something, your compiled your built website. Who cares how big it is?
Yeah, I think that's cowardly.
Okay. Oh, only move forward energy.
Yeah, if I need the old one, I go back to my phone.
Fair. It's fair.
Decide how you want to play it.
Wait, right? Actually, you know what? I am mega clown because if this has happened before, this is so bad. If I find an annotated picture, I will just open it in preview and unannotate it in preview. Or I go back to, I just load Google Photos and I find the picture from my phone.
Yeah.
And I download it and I redo it. I literally don't even try to. I don't think I've ever actually tried to look for that picture in the same folder unannotated, even though I save it that way.
A photo in
silly.
An image folder is dead to me if it's not listed in the markdown file.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not looking.
It is kind of neat to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
We got our homework here.
Yeah, we got our homework. there's some changes to make. But yeah, preview is absolute sleeper goated tool for doing docs. It's the perfect hot glue or a quick and dirty visualization. And annotations are so important too. So like, it's a good tool for that.
Yeah, it's important to direct. It goes without saying, I feel like, but you need to direct people's eyes at what they should care about.
Yep. And you can't open a whole Photoshop thing like GIMP. Like sometimes I'll even change the saturation of the thing I care for people to look at. And then the rest I gray out a little so it pulls your eye that way too. But yeah, so those are some tools that you can use for actually doing your docs.
And just because we use MK Docs and maybe it sounds like a lot to you, like you don't need to have this Git managed thing. Like some of our friends have some beautiful doc sites and it's just a WordPress site.
Yeah.
Like Bar from the Maslow CNC project has this simple little website and it just feels like your friend talking to you when you read through it.
Yeah, it's really clean. It doesn't have to be this whole Git managed thing. And we talk about this a little later about versioning of like, it's not as important as you might think, in my opinion. But I think CNC Labs uses WordPress. I'm trying to remember exactly what they use.
At least a large part of their site's WordPress. And I believe the docs might be as well.
Yeah. So you don't have to go all out with this whole thing. As long as you can show it visually in some way, that's fine.
Yeah, like your website could even link to a PDF download. Maybe your product's static enough and unchanging that a PDF download's fine.
Might be totally okay.
And
that might be sufficient.
Make that PDF however you want.
Yeah, you do it in InDesign and it looks like a pamphlet. It's like this beautiful like magazine layout if you feel like it. That's cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we should talk about too, is like sometimes people will ask us for like a hard coded, like a PDF or something, which we talked about earlier. But I really like the idea of it being dynamic because we will still add things to our docs that are useful for V2 Lumen PnP users, which we sold almost 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So if we didn't have a dynamically updatable version of our docs, they would be stuck with what we sent them at launch.
Right.
And then people don't get to benefit from those tweaks. Like you said, it really depends on how baked your thing is. Like if it's a Q-tip, you're going to write it and it's going to be done. There's the instructions on how to use a Q-tip. There's not that much extra dynamicness to those instructions. But if it's a pick and place machine, oh man, there's a bunch of different things you can do to change or improve how things work. So it's better to be dynamic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree as well. And there's so many reasons why you might want to go back to old docs and update them. So like making it the static one shot thing is just never great. Like we're always going to learn how to use our older products more better, more good.
Yep.
Or like maybe we're going to add Spanish translation site wide. So like even going back to our old stuff is still useful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there are times where people will do this and like it works okay. Like the Voron folks, for example, they will distribute a PDF or it is actually Voron.
The revision table managed PDF a lot of the time.
Right. Which is another way to do it. It's a little bit more like a hard coded thing and it's not quite as dynamic. So they probably don't do releases as often, but also totally valid. And they're beautiful. It depends. You can make a beautiful website. There's a lot of ways to do it. So depending on how much you want things to be fluid and have them update, like there will literally be a time people will give me a note in Discord of like, hey, this line was confusing. I always keep our doc stuff open in a VS Code window on my computer constantly. So from the time they mention it, I will open it up, go in, make the change. Get S is my shortcut for status. Get add, get C, go into Vim, make my message, push it up. And within this time from like when they set it to when it's pushed can be under a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And that is and that goes to everybody.
Right.
That's so hard to be. I'm a big fan of doing it that way.
Yeah. I love that our docs are this living, breathing document. Like we kind of buck off the idea of rigidity.
Yeah.
It is just, it might be better each time you go back to it.
Yeah.
We're conscious of when changes might confuse people. I think we're good with call outs. If a change would cause confusion, do address it though.
Yes. Yeah. And that leads us really nice into versioning because you can have versions of docs. So we tried this.
Yeah. We tried to be really on top of it at one point.
What we used to do is we had our docs live in the same repository as the source. And when we would make a release of the source, we'd also make a release of the docs. And that sounds great at the surface. Is like, yeah, these are the docs for this version. And if you want to go back to the docs for a different version, we actually had it set up so you could, on the docs page, select the release and it would switch to that version. The problem is if we had V2.0 and then V2.1 in terms of source release, in V2.1, we might have released something that was useful for V2.0 people. We might have updated or improved things. And at that release, we had like hard coded, we had baked that build of the website and we couldn't go back and edit it. So we're like, okay, so what things do we go back and change in the hard coded version, blah, 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 blah. What we settled on was everything should just be the best version of what it is. And the only reason we have versions is if there's a regression and we want to roll back. That's why we still use Git. But we should have a page about V2 that is live and the best version. We should have a page about V3 that is live and the best version.
Yeah.
Same with V4 and everything else. To bake it into a version of, and decoupling it from the source, because we want to be able to make changes to the docs, and even just restructuring how things look has nothing to do with the source. Some projects will do this, and that's totally fine that they do it that way, because the things that they're changing are not that, they're pretty coupled to, it's like API documentation.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You got to peg the API doc version to the API docs you're referencing.
Yes.
But hardware, maybe it's a little chilly.
Exactly. And like, maybe there's a spelling mistake in your V1.0 API docs. You want to be able to change that pretty freely. So we've found that versioning in line with the source, or even just versioning our docs at all, is kind of not been needed. We find a problem, we immediately fix it. You want the best stuff, reload the page.
Yep. And
that's the best thing we have to share. And it's relevant to the current moment. Like sometimes we say, this is available for sale on our web store, and sometimes it's not. That's confusing to go back in time at an old version where it does not reflect reality anymore. So
yeah. This was debated for months, years before we came to this. But like, we only care about what's true now.
Yeah. Yeah, you really only do. And if there's something, if you have an older machine, it's still now.
Mm-hmm.
It's always now. Yep. Like, we should have up-to-date instructions about how to use an old machine today. And like, anything we wrote 2 years ago should be out of date and should not be referenced anymore.
Like a really clear reason of how that methodology broke down is no matter the machine version, we pretty much always point it to the same version of OpenPMP docs.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you square that circle?
Yeah.
You can't.
You can't. You can't. We don't want to have people with old hardware reference old operation instructions. It got so messy.
Yeah.
So then we just said, screw it. We're going to completely decouple them. It's its own thing. It's its own product, quote unquote. And it has been bliss.
Yeah. And it did feel like a tough pill to swallow, but it's just been so much better, like you just said.
So much better. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was an example of too much red tape and structure early on that we rolled back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad we did. And it was interesting learning that lesson early of like, oh, wow, yeah, we were trying to be way too rigid about this. But yeah, what a good thing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so like going from this mono repo where docs lived and transitioning away from that, we kind of started to see docs as like, there's 3 different types of docs here, at least at Opulo. There's the internal work instructions to like our production line, our internal processes, like the fulfillment and customer support processes and all those SOPs. There's the assembly docs that a customer will go through when they receive something they bought from us and have to get it into like working order, putting it together basically. And then there's the actual docs around like using our products in their production environment that they're meant for.
Yeah.
And like, they're all very different.
They are. And that first one, the internal build instructions and stuff, we're very explicitly not talking about in this episode. That is a website we call OHI, which is Open Hardware Assembly Instructions. And it's our work instructions for our manufacturing line, which you fully own.
Mm-hmm. And we've touched on them a lot before, but I don't think it's ever had a dedicated episode. So that'll be a fun one. But like Steven just said, we'll try to keep it to customer facing, public, like using your product style discussion here.
Exactly. Yeah. This is like after shipping docs, like everything afterwards. But these really are the 3 stages of like building the parts, it ships, and then putting those parts together into the full thing. If that's even a step that you have with your product, you might fully assemble a fully assembled thing. So like, again, this is just for us. It might be build, it ships, and then usage. Or like you might have a whole thing about installation. If it's like, if you make a Nest thermostat, you have a whole section about what wires do you connect to the backside? You know, you have an IoT connected thermostat thing. And then there's usage.
Yeah.
You know, like connecting it to the app is a whole thing. Maybe that's its own section. So this is just where it breaks down for us.
One of my favorite things about this like handoff between doc sites is like the steps are in perfectly sequential leapfrogging order. Like the last step in OHI is tape the box shut. And this first step in like our assembly docs are
open the box,
cut the tape.
Yeah. And remove the panels in the opposite order that we just put them in.
Yeah.
Like it really is a funny, like, you know, backwards in time, you know, reversing the operations that happened in OHI.
There's been machine versions where I use the same photos for unboxing as I did for packaging. Just in reverse.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Literally using the same photos in reverse. It works great.
Yeah. Consistent.
Yeah. So that's an important section here is, you know, this is kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about assembly instructions and then also some usage here. That's our perspective on it. And we'll do probably an episode about like internal work instructions or something. Maybe the next one, maybe later that we'll talk about that a little bit. And part of what's inside usage and even with assembly is like, you might want to have a separate section on troubleshooting. Like I ran into a problem. This is where it goes. You might not, maybe what you do is anytime someone runs into a problem, you have a little admonition in your docs of like, hey, email us here if you run into problems. Maybe your problems are, you want to integrate your troubleshooting into the actual step that they'll run into it. It depends. Like, for example, in our usage docs, we have a troubleshooting section we immediately send you to after you've populated your first parts to see what calibration you need to adjust and teach you about the different calibrations. So it's kind of a troubleshooting section, but it's also literally the next step in the docs of like, what picture looks most like your board? Click here to tweak the docs. So it gets messy.
Yeah. If you're conscious of the flow and keep thinking about it from that newcomer perspective, like as long as you have some sense of order and reason to the docs format and layout, you'll be okay.
Yeah. It's going to be fine. Nothing is precious. Everything can be deleted and rearranged and moved around. And it's just Markdown. It's easy to move things around. It's not hard if you're using Markdown, of course.
Yeah.
Like don't let anything be precious. If someone's like, wow, this whole order is silly. Oh my Lord, change it. Rearrange. Don't die on that hill, which we'll talk about again later. But yeah.
Those are the different buckets of docs and the different types of docs we think about here.
Yep.
I think we're good to get into writing it.
Actually making them.
Yeah.
Actually going through the process of making them. So the first, biggest, most weighty part of this process is taking pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures should be the bulk majority of your docs because humans are visual and they do not like to read.
More picture, more better.
More picture, more better.
Yeah. Someone told me once there's a whole team in Toyota that looks to remove text from their work instructions or assembly docs and replace them with photos.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's so much less ambiguous too. Like a photo to say, take these 2 bolts and put them in the left face of this piece of this print in this hole. That's like, no, just show me a picture of it and I know exactly what it is.
Yeah. People don't, I suspect that if you listen to this podcast, you probably love reading the docs.
If you're listening to this and you're like, well, that's not me.
Yeah.
You're not the target customer for this.
Most people do not read. They look at the pictures and they go back to read when they got confused.
And honestly, as much as I hate to say this, as someone that writes docs and gets frustrated when people don't read the docs, I do that.
Yeah.
I will go through the pictures. I am Icarus and I fly too close to the sun for my hubris and my wings melt and I fall into the ocean because I think I can, the picture looks like this. I'll just do it. And I get halfway through it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't read anything.
Yeah.
It's a human thing.
Even I got super burned, and we learned this lesson the hard way, not only from our experience through Opulo, but also
when we were building
him and I were building Voron 0.1 printers together alongside Bryce, who was our assembly tech at the time. And Steven and I ended up naming our machines Icarus and Hubris respectively, because we both just kept getting obliterated by our failures to follow the docs.
And Bryce was meticulous and like it could compete in the speedboat race with his.
Yeah.
And like yours isn't working and mine prints slower than my Taz 5.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Yeah. How many times did you have to go back and like undo like 7 steps of assembly?
My gosh. I was such a clown. I learned a lot about myself and documentation in that process.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. Like, and also about the fact that there was a lot of text in those docs, like they didn't catch Steven's clown behavior in the way that they could have.
Yeah.
They're beautiful docs. They're great. But like, it was also very telling of like my clown behavior still snuck its way through. How do you prevent that from happening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bryce smoked us. Yeah. Like we built them faster than him, but he was quicker to a working print.
Yeah. We felt like we were hours ahead of him, but then we'd have to undo all the progress because we can't read.
Right. And Bryce was just like, did it right. He followed the instructions. There was a thing, I think it was like in my 4th grade class or whatever, where we got this test. We all had to like silently take this test. And at the first step was, please read all the instructions before completing any of the questions. And no one did that because at the very end, the very last step was, now that you read all of this, don't do any of it. So the idea was you would say, oh, okay, I'll read it all first and then I'll start doing it. And as you go through, there are crazy things that you have to do in this test. And at the very end, it was literally don't do any of it. I just wanted you to read it. You're actually done. So the second one was stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pat your head 3 times.
I bet
stare at the clock for a full minute. And people are doing this. People are in my class are standing up and starting to say the Pledge of Allegiance and like just looking up at the clock and staring for a full minute and like doing these weird tasks. And some people are like, oh, it says at the end, you're not. Clearly they didn't read the instructions of you got to go through the whole thing first. That stuck with me. That really, really stuck with me. Yeah, it was a cool exercise. But
it's kind of all to say pictures.
Pictures. Yep. So what I start with when I'm doing docs, especially for assembly docs, is start with a list of all the like visuals that you need and have your product in the box, packaged up, ready to be unboxed. And it should be almost exactly, if not exactly, what you're going to ship. Because any errata, any difference from what you're going to ship is going to necessitate a retake of a photo.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks. So get as close as you can, or anything that's weird is like Photoshoppable. Like I think the one that we used for V4, there was part of the extrusion that was like messed up. Like it got dinged really bad. And like, that's why we weren't shipping it. It was like my test machine.
Yeah, but then you had to go Photoshop 30 photos to remove scuff.
Yeah, but that was okay.
Yeah.
I knew I could Photoshop those. And honestly, it was pretty quick going through those. I would much rather that happen and we free up a machine that we can ship.
Yeah.
So, just be aware of like any differences from what and even the smallest things will catch people. They will hang up on it. Like you have to make that correct.
Yeah. Something being a millimeter different. That might be a little bit much. Something being slightly in the
2
wrong
millimeters.
Place. Yeah. People will see it and think they built it wrong.
Yes.
Even if you think, oh, it's a negligible difference, not to them.
Mm-mm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. People will catch that stuff. So try and get as close as you can so it makes less work for you later. And then you build the whole thing.
Yeah.
And every single thing you take a picture. So the way I think about it is like text should only ever describe what's happening in a picture.
Yeah.
Like you take that picture and just take way more than you need, even for silly things. So like if let's say the step is like you put a bolt into a hole and you like tighten it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 pictures. That is a picture of the bolt, a picture of you holding the bolt near the hole, a picture of the bolt in the hole, and a picture of an Allen key in the bolt tightening the bolt.
Yeah, and maybe even one of it installed, no Allen key in sight.
Yes. What is it done afterwards? Like, that's a lot of pictures.
Yeah. In animation, these would be called the keyframes. Like, what are the bare minimum pictures that you need to tell the story here?
Ooh.
Like, what's the flip book view of it?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really cool way to think about it. Yeah. So just take way more than you need.
Mm-hmm.
Just way more. And like CAD screenshots don't count. You cannot use CAD screenshots. Like, unless it's an emergency or necessary, they should be pictures, especially when you're putting things together.
I don't know, man. Like, we actually disagree here. Wouldn't it be weird if your Lego instructions used real photos? I think there's a time and place.
I agree.
Or like if your IKEA instructions showed real pictures of wood.
I don't know. Okay. I agree that like Lego and IKEA are sufficient and beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think it would be better if they were pictures.
I think so. I think the picture you put in your docs needs to be the bare minimum, not the bare minimum. It needs to convey the essence of what you're trying to explain.
Right.
And if a picture is better, hell yeah. If a screenshot with wireframe and CAD can convey the same information with less stuff to analyze with your eyeballs in the scene, I think that's also pretty rad.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Like, okay, so maybe there's something where, okay, so for example, I built the open flexure microscope.
Yeah.
And there is a step where you print a little jig to like take this rubber band and you like kind of put this rubber band on this like on tongs almost. You kind of like set it into these like tongs and then you jam it up into this void inside of a print. And it's supposed to like catch on to these little arms, all totally hidden from you. Like you literally just take these tongs with a rubber band on the end and you just jam it up there and have to hope that it's going to work. And it was really annoying trying to get that to happen. What I would have loved in the docs was like a 20% or like 80% transparency image of that main print.
Yeah, like a section view.
Exactly. A section view even. That would have been great. So I knew what's happening under there? What should I wait to feel for?
Mm-hmm.
And that, okay, that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. Because I didn't know otherwise.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, maybe most of the time real pictures are nice because it's the closest to what they're actually interfacing with, you know?
Yeah. I think if your CAD renders do not show the full context of what the user would be holding, they're probably not going to make the cut.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if a rubber band's not modeled in its like taut position, if a cable's not shown,
yeah,
your renders probably aren't going to be suitable.
Right. If you don't have all your cables like routed and like Blender, like cloth animation, like how they would fall, just take a picture of the cable because it's easier at that point than doing it all in render. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. I can see some situations where that really is useful. It's like, yeah, renders might be more helpful than a photo.
It just depends.
It depends. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That was too hard and fast of a rule. What's the point? The point is communicating. Got him.
I knew I'd get him.
Yeah, you got me. What the point of docs is to have someone be successful with your thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is with a screenshot, great. But like, don't be like, I don't want to take pictures. I think that's why I'm leaning this way is like, don't be lazy. If the best thing is a photo, get off your ass, go take some pictures. Don't just take a screenshot on your computer. Like, unless that's truly the best way to convey what you're trying to get across.
Yeah. And if it's equivalent, then pick and be consistent, make it aesthetic and pleasant to look at.
Yeah.
But do what is best.
Yeah. Do what is best. So yeah, sometimes I'm trying to think, can you think of any CAD screenshots we have in our assembly docs?
I don't think we have much of any CAD renders, but like I would be completely
with it.
I'd be pretty okay with it for like assemble the frame.
That's fair.
I think those could even be made better for looking more like a Voron doc in that way.
Yeah. I'm looking through our V4 assembly docs right now, and there's some things that might have been better as a render. I can't think of them explicitly right now, but like there might be some of these where like, yeah, a render might have been better. And this is another note too. When I first took the V2 docs pictures, a lot of them were just screenshots of CAD. And we were way too tight in.
Right.
I made this mistake. I was way too zoomed in and people didn't have the context of what they were supposed to do. I was trying to blow it up at what they needed to see as much as possible, but they didn't have the context of like, where is this on the machine?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a important note is like, don't be afraid to get a wide field of view, especially if you can take a really high res photo and punch in if it's too spread out later. Do that. It's always easier to crop than it is to like like AI render more of your photo, which is crap, and don't do that. Give yourself more of the image, even if it's a little less resolution. I think that's okay.
Yeah, and another point towards like real photos, there's so much to be said about a hand holding a tool in the photo, showing you like how you would hold something and position them together.
Yes. Yeah. Like I'm going through the docs here about like, how do you set your staging plate to be the right distance from your front rail? It shows like me holding the jig and my hand is like behind it, pushing it just like you'd expect to. And I'm actually not pushing it there. I'm just posing for the picture to get the idea across. And then after it's pushed, then I show my hand twisting the Allen key, like with the correct size of the Allen key at the right side of it. It's the short end.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. That is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't have the fidelity if you're just working off a CAD render here.
Yeah. So some of these things, sure. But yeah, that's a good point. It depends on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Do this. And then if it doesn't matter either way, be consistent. I like that too.
I knew I get you.
Yeah. That's a good point. It depends.
All right. And so let's say you're going to do pictures.
Yeah.
They got to be good pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what does that mean? You want to have nice lighting, have some overhead lights that you can pose, make sure your shadows aren't being cast over what you're trying to make in the foreground.
Yeah. Soft lighting, diffused lighting. So it's not like these sharp, harsh shadows that like hides parts of what you're trying to see. You want everything to be visible.
Yeah. When I do docs, I'm posing the light for almost each photo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just a thing to always be in control of.
Yeah. And you're not taking an artsy portrait. You're not taking an Instagram selfie. You're trying to convey information.
Yeah.
So if you have a really shallow depth of field, that makes for a beautiful photo with some bokeh in the background and all that. You don't want anything to be blurry. So I try and set mine to like a really high f-stop, a really slow aperture.
Yeah.
So that it has a very deep depth of field. So everything is in focus. I don't want parts of it to be blurry. I want the full context.
I think we're a little different here.
Yeah.
I will let something get blurred in the background if it's not something I want the user's attention on at the moment.
I will try and use annotations instead.
Yeah.
To pull the eye instead of the blur so that you can still see the context better. But that is a good point. It's like it could be used as a tool for pulling the eye.
Yeah. I think it'd be subtle for sure.
Yeah. As long as it's not making it hard to understand what the heck you're looking at, it's fine.
But like also important here, you want to do all of your docs on a clean tabletop. Ideally, it's a consistent one.
Yep.
You don't want your background to be distracting. Like for our internal work instructions, I try not to have people in sight in the background working at other benches. I try not to have unrelated parts shown in pictures.
Yep.
And the same can be said for anything public facing.
Yep. And it's nice to, when you have a setup, I'm actually sitting right next to it right now as we record this, having a nice setup for docs and keeping it there is great to reduce the barrier to entry to retake a photo if you have to. If you're like, I got to go set up this whole set and everything. If you just leave it, it makes it so much easier to just retake that photo and not like put that kind of thing off. So highly recommend doing that. That's definitely helpful.
And I learned this one the hard way, having to run to CVS real quick, but like keep your nails nice, well-groomed, not necessarily manicured, but like you're representing your product and so your hands better do the same.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you look nice.
So I know Steven has a manicure set like hidden in his desk somewhere.
If I know that I'm going to be doing docs, I will trim my nails the night before and make sure that they just don't look wacky, just be aware of it. Get a tripod, even if it's just your phone, get a tripod. Don't have a shaky hand, keep things level.
You'll need a tripod anyway, because there's probably going to be some docs photos where two hands are in use on the product.
Mm-hmm. And that also means you'll need the timer setting where you can set it for like a 3-second delay or a 10-second delay or whatever. You get your hands in position, you wait, you get your, you take your photo and then out you go. That's necessary. If you can use a DSLR, great. If not, the phone in your pocket can probably take like 50 megapixel photos.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
And you might not know this, but there's some awesome phone holders meant for tripods.
Yes.
For like $20 online.
Mm-hmm. One of the ones that you picked up, I use all the time now when I'm shooting YouTube stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so nice because my phone does 4K too.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's another full camera that you can just do with your phone.
What type of phone is that, Steven?
Yeah. It's
You're gonna get some heat.
For using an iPhone and not an Android.
Yeah.
Yeah. I switched to an iPhone. But it's better. I feel guilty, but I do like Android, but yeah, it's great for video. It's just, it's good.
It's the best camera in my pocket.
And the macro stuff is really nice. Like, honestly, this is a good point. Like having a phone that has a really good camera is really helpful for me with dealing with docs.
Yeah.
Like I ended up getting the one with a really nice macro because I take up close-up pictures of circuit boards all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to make sure that they're going to look good for docs. I use my phone is a perfectly acceptable photography machine for documentation. That might be a worthwhile consideration. I literally thought about that when I was buying a new phone.
Yeah.
And usually I get the worst phone I possibly can, just enough to to get me by. But yeah.
There's that cheesy saying you probably have heard before. It's like the best camera is the one you have on you.
Yes.
If I got pulled onto the assembly line to look at an assembly issue and I have the usual docs camera on me.
Yep.
I might update the QC checklist right then and there. If I have to go grab my DSLR to get a good docs photo, I'm probably not going to pick that photo.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're mighty powerful.
Mm-hmm, that they be.
Yeah.
And then you have all your pictures and then you drop it in your software, whatever it is, in order. And then it's time to write the docs. You've already done most of the work. When you start to write them, you should be almost done.
Yeah. And towards that too, I'll look at the rendered doc site without text and I'll go, is there a photo missing here?
Right.
Yeah. And it could even be helpful to look as you're like a third of the way through taking photos. Like, am I missing one?
Yeah. And yeah, actually that makes a ton of sense. After I'm done taking pictures, I go and I start writing the docs and I still leave my set up because even just for V4 docs, when I was doing this, I totally forgot a couple things. And I was like, oh man, I should go back and take another picture for this. I had, you both were looking through the docs and were like, hey, this is misleading here. And I went back and I took another picture.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a good point. Audit it before you tear everything down. Docs should be done and audited by somebody else before you tear down your set for taking pictures.
For sure.
Yeah. when you're writing your docs, you want to reduce as many words as possible. And we talked about this at the beginning. People will just skip a paragraph. If they see a huge block of text, they'll jump over it. I do. And I shouldn't, but I do that.
It probably doesn't matter if the text is bold, red, italic, bigger. They good chance they'll skip it.
Yep. So if you can, whatever is being described in that paragraph, if you can take photos of those things and break it up into one photo per sentence, and then you just have like 9 pictures instead of 9 sentences, and then there's one sentence above each picture, that's going to go way better than just a paragraph.
I've never heard someone complain that docs have too many photos.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
I don't think that's a real complaint.
It's add more photos. And if you do need to have a lot of text, you can use admonitions, which is like a little call out, like it'll say like tip and with like a little icon, like a little light bulb. That will help punctuate it a little bit. To if you do truly have to convey text, try and literally just visually break it up to make people more inclined to read it.
Yeah, that's a really handy tool. At least in MK Docs, there's a type of admonition for like success or failure or waiting. I think we added that one actually, or like warning.
Yep.
I think people are conditioned to look for those and at least read those blurbs more so than like a body paragraph.
Yeah. Because that really should just be a picture. Something else that we notice is that options can be really bad in documentation.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at first, but you don't want to give people multiple opinions.
Right. Because they don't yet know enough about the system to pick.
Yeah.
And that's what I think this turns more into is like, you tell them what to do and you get them so that they're running. And then you say, cool, you're good. Want to look in further? Here are some options. Now that you understand what this is and you can weigh the pros and cons, like if I don't know anything about rock climbing and you do, and we go and you're trying to help me buy rock climbing shoes. And you say, Steven, these are bloogity blocks.
Here's 3 ways to tie your shoes, but pick the one you like the most. Like,
right.
No, I'm just going to tell you which not to tie.
Exactly. You don't know. It's like, if you give me 3 brands of rock climbing shoes, and you tell me the metrics, I don't know what that means yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what durometer skateboard wheels means when I'm trying to do a Coleman slide. I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So I have to get some experience before I'm ready to make a decision on that myself. So just, even if there are other ways to do it, don't say that in the initial bit. And then provide all that later. So once they have the context, they can feel free to explore and do those other things. Most people just want to get up and running and move on. But for the people that want to explore, give it to them later.
Yeah. And that was tough for me at first because I love people having the full context and awareness of what they're doing and why.
Yeah.
But people aren't necessarily looking for that, like you just said.
And also the way that they get that context is by going through the motions once.
Yeah.
That's the best way for them to get the context and understand what the trade-offs are. And then you go. If you try and put all those things up front, it doesn't mean anything yet.
Yeah, you'll probably just paralyze someone with decision-making fatigue.
Exactly. You got to ease it in. So that was something that was really helpful for us. And we put all that stuff now at the end of like, here's our recommended thing. You want it further reading? Check it out. These are all these other things you can do. And that's worked really well for us.
Oh yeah. People have been a lot happier.
While you are writing them too, it can be useful to follow a style format. So are you writing in the first person? Are you writing in the imperative mood? What generally, how are you going about communicating these things? What do you capitalize? What do you not?
Do you refer to part numbers or do you use part names?
Yes. Do you put them in tick marks so that they highlight as code, like formatting? Like all these little standards are important. And we use Google's documentation guidelines broadly. We don't perfectly follow them. And they say as much. They're like, don't perfectly follow this. This is just for us. So there's some exceptions to make here and there. But Google's is interesting to start with. It talks about tone, gives examples of like when you're trying to help someone connect to an API, don't be like, sup fam, want to get access to some sick data? Just pop this into your curl command and suddenly you got rockin' JSON.
Oh God.
Like, I mean, not only is that like, hello, my fellow kids energy, but like that's too colloquial for documentation. But you also don't want to be like, first proceed to the link that will provide you with the, like, there's a balance.
You don't want to be stiff and rigid. The docs, they don't need to say please.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest ones because like it feels like you should say please, but if you read any documentation, please is the weirdest thing to see.
Yeah, you don't. It'd be in every other step.
because it's all imperative. You're saying, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Docs are weird. There's a way to write them, and it will feel disjointed. Similar to Jaden, one of all of our friends. She used to work at a pixel art company, and all the artists had a different style, but they all had to work in the style of the company. So even though they all came in doing pixel art in a totally different way, they had to change the way they did it to fit the company's style. And I think about that all the time with writing docs. It has to sound like it's coming from one voice. So you'll kind of have to decide what that voice is going to be when you dive into it.
And you could probably tell if docs were written by me, Steven, or Mitchell, but like it's way more subtle.
Yeah.
And there's way more harmony between all of our different authors' voices than there would have been otherwise.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. Just like I can tell which piece of that pixel art Jaden made or somebody else. I can still kind of see, but if you don't know those people's styles as much, okay, you can, it looks more or less the same.
So you don't need to overly sterilize your docs, but these guidelines will help you make something consistent that's akin to what people would expect to read.
Yes. And we'll drop a link in the show notes of this style guide that we use for reference because it's very interesting to read. I highly recommend doing it, and just things to think about that I never would have thought about while writing docs. It's worth the time. So now you have something written.
Hopefully.
Yep. Hopefully you have something written. You have something to go put out there.
But unfortunately, it's probably bad.
It's probably pretty wrong.
Yeah. You should work on that.
Yes. But you need something to put out there.
Yeah.
So now you begin the process of tuning, where all of the misleading crap you put in there that you didn't mean to be misleading, but is incredibly misleading, is time to be unearthed.
Yeah.
So take your ego, put it away, and focus on the things that you were blind to.
And I'm sure whoever's listening, your docs are great. No matter how much you scrutinize them, there's going to be stuff to do better.
Yeah.
After public people have laid their eyes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. As the years have gone by and we've written more and more docs for Opula stuff.
Yeah.
They've gotten much closer out of the gate, like way better out of the gate. But there's always stuff. There's always things that are misleading or wrong or confusing, or that's just part of the game.
Just bit rot to it too. You look back at something old and go, oh, that didn't even age well.
Yep. You're going to get bit rot there too. So when you go through this tuning, we talked about this a little bit before, but what's nice about having a Git structure to it is like, as soon as you find out what it is, immediately fix it and then push it to the website.
Yeah.
And you've suddenly it's all up there, and like under a few minutes, you've made the change and it's redeployed for everybody. And that's great. Especially like we have a Discord server. Someone's like, hey, this was really confusing in the docs. I see it. I change it. I push it. And I say, great, thanks. It's already fixed. Reload it in 5 minutes when the build finishes and you'll see it's corrected. That should be exactly what it is. That's so nice. That's such a good way to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And people will respect you for doing that.
Being on top of it, the kind of work that doesn't have a list in your to-do list, it's like it comes up and you just kind of have to field them as they come. And it's the long, slow burn of making things better.
Definitely true.
There's a line we use a lot here based on a quote from Bill Hader, who is SNL comedian. He's been in movies. He's a funny guy. The line is about when you're writing a script and you get feedback on it. I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast before. Yeah, we have. Mitchell's saying we have a little bit. So the quote is, when you have a script and you give it to someone to review and they read through it and they say, the script's great, but there's something wrong with the relationship between the husband and the wife. There's something off about that. I think you need to have them get into a fight in the first act. And that fight would set the tone for the second and third act. I think that's what's missing. In that scenario, Bill Hader says, when someone says something is wrong about your script, they're always right. But when they tell you what to fix about it, they're always wrong. And I don't think it's always. Here's my hedge with this. I don't think they're always wrong. But they are not the person who wrote the script. They don't know all of the considerations that go into that script. So what his point is if someone says, hey, this was confusing and misleading, I think you should write this in here. That might not be the way to fix it. You know the system. You should heavily consider their feedback. It might be the right way to do it. And you know what? Our community is sharp as hell. They're usually right.
we're really lucky there too.
Yeah. We're really lucky.
This type of it might be coming from someone that skipped every other step.
Yes.
And like, maybe there's still something you can address so that it's easier for the people who skipped every other step to follow your stuff.
It could be the XY problem of like, if you're like, my example of this is like, you ask a friend, how do I upload a 2-hour long GIF?
And
it's like, whoa. If you're asking that, the premise is already scuffed. It's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to share a movie with my friend. You should just upload it to YouTube and don't convert it into a GIF.
How do I attach sound to a GIF?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's a movie.
Oh, honey.
Yeah. So sometimes if you get those questions, it's like, well, what are you actually trying to do? Don't make assumptions about how to do it. And that's what the Bill Hader thing is. It's a really interesting aspect. When someone calls out that there's a problem, always trust that and heavily assess their suggested solution, but don't be worried if the one that you think is right is not the same one they suggested. Which is tricky. It's a really tricky thing of figuring that out. We are really lucky that our community, usually they're like, it should say this. And we're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it should do. And we just make that change. But depending on your audience and what you're doing, it could not be that. We'll drop a link to the video. I think we did this last time we talked about this too, but we'll drop a link to the clip in the description for the episode if you want to watch it. It's an interesting discussion about it. And this really also goes nicely with like, you know the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink?
Of course.
That doesn't apply with docs. If someone has a hard time getting going with your thing, it's always your fault. Like, even if you lead the horse to water and they don't drink, okay, well, make them really thirsty and flavor the water and bring their head really close to the water and like do everything you can to get them to drink. Saying, well, I told them and they didn't do it, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
If there's some place where they're getting caught up, even if they're not following the instructions, I don't care. You still have to help them. You still have to get them where they need to be. If you don't, that's your failing.
Yeah. If people fell asleep before they finished reading our instructions, it's our fault.
Exactly. Like, and the example of this is like, let's say people always do a step out of order, always, and they miss a warning that we already put on the right step early on. We said, hey, before you do step blah, make sure you check this box or whatever. And they're skipping ahead and they miss that warning. You might want to put that warning on the page where they're actually getting to it. And it feels wrong. It's like, no, you did it out of order. It's very easy to die on a philosophical hill here of like, no, you have to do it in order and you can't put it there. And I'm repeating this warning. Your only goal is to get them going.
Yeah.
And if that means you have to put stuff in places that feel kind of weird, do it. Because that's accomplishing your goal.
Yeah, there's something, it's like, don't be afraid that the docs say something twice. Like,
yeah, yes.
I understand not wanting to have redundancy or duplicate information feeling like a waste or a source of error. But like, no, if you need to remind them, do it.
Do it. Put it there too.
Or if you need to boomerang them back during like a quality control check, do it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Send them back to that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can feel a little weird because like you're writing this for an organic a meat computer, right? There's an electric meatball on everyone's skull that makes these decisions. That's what you're trying to facilitate. It's not going to be a clean cut process. You're not writing code. You're helping a human being understand what to do. There's going to be inconsistencies there, and that's okay. That's part of the process. I had a really hard time with this. I was like, well, no, this shouldn't be here. It should be on this page because this is when they do it. No.
Yeah.
It should be where it's going to catch them.
I remember hating that. I did not want redundancy. I wanted every word to matter. I wanted every word to carry all of the importance that it possibly needed to. And it's like, well, no.
Yep. Yeah. It is a pragmatic document. Yeah.
I don't know if it depends on what the product is, but like if it's so brain dead simple to use your product that you're documenting, then like maybe it could be a 3-step guide and there's no redundancy. And like, there's only one way to put this picture frame together.
Right.
But like,
yeah, exactly.
When we're talking about something of sufficient complexity where something could be broken if they do it wrong or cause like irreversible damage, like it's where you really want to have these fail safes.
Yeah. You want to put those in place everywhere you can. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there might be the fact that there's multiple pages to our docs might be like completely unnecessary for a ton of stuff that y'all might be making.
Yeah.
It just may not matter. Yeah. Do the thing that's going to help them work the best, even if it feels like, well, that's not how it should be. There is no should. There is just what helps people do it.
Yeah. If we're talking about like the customer style assembly docs, like every so often having a picture going, your assembly should now look like this. Or it's a GIF where you're panning it around.
Yeah.
Or like you're plugging something in and seeing if the screen's the right color.
A 2-hour GIF.
Yeah. With sound.
With sound. Yep, exactly.
But it's our job as engineers and product designers and you, the listener, get your docs in order.
Mhm.
Make people happy with them.
Yep. Find what's difficult and fix it however you need to do it.
Just do it.
Exactly. Shia LaBeouf. It's also really handy to look at other people's docs pages for reference. Like V1 Engineering is really nice. We talked about BAR. We talked about CNC already. Folks that we've had in the podcast. Thea's documentation, Thea Flowers. She really has a way of communicating technical information that it's like drinking a Slurpee.
It's a masterclass. Yeah.
It's just easy, and the information finds its neat little way into your brain, and there's no friction, and it's really good.
Yeah, your docs they're a warm hug.
They are a warm hug. Yeah, they're really good. So we'll put a link up. I think there's a really good article that she wrote on her blog about how she made one of the modules they make at Winterbloom, synthesizer company that she runs. And it explains everything about it. There's visuals. It's great. So looking at other people for reference can be a nice thing too.
Now I'm going to throw you a bone, Steven.
Okay.
You're a video guy. What about video docs?
Video docs are really, that's so hard.
But you make video.
I do.
You even make video. Why not doc video?
Videos age like milk.
Oh, okay.
Videos are, you bake it into one file that is hard to edit. It is hard coded, and you put it up and you link to it, and those links get distributed everywhere. So when you put a video up, it's there.
Okay, yeah.
It's baked into that thing. And one video has 1 million pieces of information in it. If you need to update one piece of information in that video, you're screwed. Because you now have to completely nuke the entire, you have to go back to the video editor, you have to change that tiny little plicky of information, and then up it goes again, and you redistribute all the links. It sucks.
Yeah, and I was asking leading questions there. I'd expect you to say as much like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just like how we were doing like version pegged docs sites, but video is the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If a bolt length changed, the video could be nuked.
Yeah, it truly can. And we've tried things like, the video doesn't say the bolt length, and we say refer to the docs for this. That doesn't work because people want to watch only the video. Like they want to use that. So if you try and hide certain parts of it, it causes problems. It really causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, and almost paradoxical, but the videos are really good when they're current.
Yes. When they're fully accurate, they're the best tool. But when they're not, they're horrendously misleading.
Yeah.
Like they're so confusing for people when it's literally, there's a person on your screen saying, hi, I'm about to help you to do this thing. Here's a step that's wrong. And then you go to the docs and it says a different thing. Oh my Lord. That's the worst.
And I've noticed too, people will cling to they'll cling to the most recent video, even if there's much more up-to-date docs.
Yes.
Like people will go to the V3 video and hope it's going to help them make their V4.
Yeah.
And there's only a V4 like written docs site.
Yes. And it's tough. So what we've kind of settled on is we only do videos for evergreen things. Like things that are like, that's going to last a really long time and they're pretty baked. We know it's not changing. It's not actively changing. And if you do videos, break one big thing into separate videos. So you only have to update one little nugget, one little section. You're not updating everything that references this video. Break them out into little bits to make it feel a little easier to update those little sections. And that can help a lot.
Yeah, I think in high school, I was building a blue chick CNC router from buildyourcnc.com. And Patrick Hood, I think his name was. Awesome guy. He had I think 50 video chapters in his build docs.
Yep.
That's probably the right way to play it.
Yeah. Having it broken out a bunch. So we don't do videos for our assembly anymore because frankly, the written docs do just fine. People have a good time with it. But calibration has a little more to it. So we do videos for that because it also applies across almost all lumens.
You're like hardware agnostic pretty much.
They're very close to that. And I call that stuff out in the video very carefully so that it will stay evergreen. And that's great. And that's also for a thing that it's kind of hard to show in written docs. It's a lot of screenshots. It's tougher. So having a screen capture of a screen of of the software as I'm going through and doing it, that helps a lot. So we decided to do it for that. The builds, it's not super necessary. And if you do it for a build or an old software process or whatever, if it's not accurate anymore, unlist it, remove it. Because just like you said, people will go to the latest video of a build, even if the docs are more up to date.
Yeah, it'll hurt you.
It will actively confuse people.
I might even, in addition to that guideline, a video should probably not be your only instruction.
I agree with that. When I built the slab, which is a lever action Nerf gun, Lucian, you got me a kit for it for Christmas. And it was great. It was super fun. There was only one way to build it. I could be wrong about this, but at the time of building, there was a video from Out of Darts, the YouTube channel. And it was fine. It was a little out of date from some of the files and stuff, but I would have loved to have a written thing and not just have the video. There was just the video.
Yeah.
And it was a little frustrating. And they had to like splice in like, oh, we did this part before, so ignore the fact that this is already built, blah, blah. It was not great.
Yeah. And it's tough. I used to work in technical documentation at a software company. So I made the video for them. So I have some things drilled into me from it. The video is tough from a localization standpoint as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like at the least that someone can go to your MKDocs based site and hope that like their browser is going to translate it to something coherent if they don't speak the language you wrote it in.
Right. But like a video, you can have closed captions, but like the text on screen, I mean, that also kind of goes for localization for screenshots of software and stuff.
Yeah, but you're also then banking on transcription as well.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you can add a caption track, but it's an extra dimension to be aware of.
I would say that it's always better to have both because people learn in different ways. And like, since we put out this whole new video series of like doing Cal and stuff on the Lumen and OpenPMP, it's been tremendously helpful. Like we've got a lot of really good feedback that it was excellent to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to start with written docs. And when people are like, this was a little confusing, assess what it means to do video at that point. Because it's a lot of time and effort to go the video route. It could be really nice to do it. I wouldn't start with it because you may not know what you don't know yet, but it can be a really nice tool. And eventually I think it's good for that to be the goal. And if you have like automatically generated captions for a video, who knows how wrong that is? Like if you're just hoping that YouTube is correct about it, this is technical information. Like ideally you pay someone to do your internationalization for all your copy.
Right. And there's a lot more tools to do that for doc sites. You send them a sitemap and the text files that translate and they're going to just go do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is something that we're looking into doing pretty soon, of doing internationalization for like some of the biggest countries that we ship to, different languages of some of our users. Because right now everything's in English and we have translations on the website, but the docs page, it's a little, it's more complicated. It's a trickier thing. It makes it harder to update things. So we're trying to figure out how to go about doing that and see what that looks like for us.
Yeah. We're thinking about doing French and German first. We've been told those are critical ones to offer for at least like the European continent.
Yeah.
If anyone listening knows of languages that are even more critical to do first, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. If anyone has gone through the process of internationalization, and did you pick 3 languages? Did you pick 5? Did you pick 25? Did you do them all at once? Like how did you make those decisions? Because we're kind of thinking about that right now.
Even Polish, someone suggested to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to go one or the other.
Looking at your customer base, where you sell it, but also that is a little bit of survivorship bias.
Exactly.
Because maybe if let's say we sell a whole bunch to Portugal and the Portuguese happen to be totally chill with English instructions, then if we did the Portuguese translation, they're fine with English already.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's tough to say.
But maybe we sell hardly any to Prague because they want it to be written in Czech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very tricky. So I don't know. Let us know, either podcast at opula.io or hop into our Discord server and let us know in the Own Podcast channel if you've dealt with this.
Yeah, because that's definitely it's one of the next topics for us. And after we hear about it, after we learn it, we make an episode on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess ultimately for video, like make the written site first and make a video as like a surgical strike to add more to a section where you might need to.
I like that. I think it's always better to have the written ones first and have that be your bog standard. And for the things that are really tricky to convey that way, try doing small surgical strike videos to outline that process that is hard to convey. And try that on and see how that feels for that process. If it's something, of some decent complexity.
Yeah. And like what we're talking about, where video has been helpful is like move this slider and see how the computer image changes like our analysis of the camera view, stuff like that. Yeah. Seeing how changing a setting affects the machine in real time. Like that's tough to document. I get it.
It is.
Yeah.
Without a lot of GIFs, which you can do, but what's a GIF? It's a movie without audio. Like it's kind of, you should just make a video.
Just have audio.
Yeah. How do I make this GIF of a slider have audio? Steven, you should make a YouTube video of this.
My God. Yeah. But that's the long and short of docs for us. Like, there's a whole lot to it. We certainly learned a lot along the way.
Yeah. We've changed a lot of things about how we operate in it.
All right, folks, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us out a ton. You can learn more about Opulo at opulo.io, as well as YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at podcast@opulo.io with questions or comments on the episode. To keep up to date with the podcast and Opulo, sign up for our newsletter where we write blog posts and conduct customer interviews with other folks building open hardware. That's it. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
I am a frog, in fact. Gurgle. Kermit the Frog.
Let me think.
Sorry.